Here's a terrifying what if for you. What if every volcano on the planet erupted at the exact same time? I know that's a lot of ifs, but we can actually answer this, and it might not be what you think. Let's start with the basics. There are 3 active volcanoes on Earth: Mount Vesuvius in Italy, Krakatoa in Indonesia, and Erupted in Alaska. But there's also over 500 potentially active volcanoes and thousands more dormant ones waiting for just the right conditions to blow. So let's be clear when I say all. I mean every single one of them. Volcanoes are formed by magma from deep within the Earth forcing its way through weak spots in the crust. When it reaches the surface, we call it lava. And how violently it erupts depends on its magma, how runny it is, how hot it is, and most importantly, how much gas is dissolved in it. Dissolved gases in magma build up pressure, which, when released, causes explosions. The more gas, the more violent the eruption. Now, the vast majority of volcanic eruptions are relatively small. They either ooze out lava slowly or erupt gently. But even small eruptions can cause huge problems. In 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted near the Roman city of Pompeii, killing thousands and burying the city under tons of ash. And in 2010, an underwater eruption of Mount Krakatoa sent a tsunami crashing into the coast of Indonesia, killing hundreds. But those are nothing compared to the biggest volcanic eruption in recorded human history, the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia. Its eruption column reached 40 kilometers into the air, and the blast was heard 2,000 kilometers away. It caused tsunamis, killed tens of thousands, and threw so much ash into the atmosphere that 1816 became the year without a summer. So even though most volcanoes aren't like this, the potential for total devastation is always present. But could they all erupt at once? Well, before I tell you whether it's possible, I have to warn you, because it gets worse. First, the shockwaves of all the explosions would likely trigger even more volcanoes to blow. Then the sky would turn dark with ash, blocking the sun and sending temperatures plummeting. Eventually it would rain down and contaminate all our water sources. Most of the land would become uninhabitable, leading to mass extinctions of plants and animals. Humanity would likely face starvation and global chaos, but it gets worse. Because all the water vapor released into the atmosphere would superheat the stratosphere, causing unprecedented storms and winds that would flatten forests and demolish buildings. All that ash in the air would also block the cosmic microwave background radiation, proving once and for all that the universe had a beginning. And yet somehow, it gets worse. As the temperature of the Earth's core rises, volcanic activity increases, and the atmosphere becomes so toxic that the ozone layer would begin to break down, allowing deadly ultraviolet radiation to reach the surface. Within a few years, all life on Earth would be wiped out, and that's just the short term. Over millions of years, tectonic plates would move apart, releasing all the trapped carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases stored in the Earth's mantle. Our oceans would boil, releasing hydrogen and methane. Eventually, the entire surface of the Earth would become a giant ocean of lava. At that point, humanity's only hope would be to leave Earth and colonize another planet. But unfortunately, it gets worse. Once a planet cools enough for liquid water to exist, any future inhabitants would find fossils and evidence of past life. And if that sounds weird, just wait. All the energy released by the volcanoes would send debris hurtling into outer space, creating a thick cloud around the Earth. Any objects entering or leaving the planet would have to punch through it, and that includes meteorites. Earth's natural shield against asteroids would no longer protect us. Instead, more and more asteroids would crash into a molten Earth until it's just another barren rock floating in space. And at that point, our solar system would look just like our asteroid belt, and that's just the short term. In the long term, the entire solar system would change. If you thought the disruption of Earth's orbit around the sun was bad, wait until it gets blown out of the solar system entirely. As the sun goes through its life cycle, it will expand into a red giant, consuming Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Even if we managed to survive all this, we would now be drifting through interstellar space. At some point, the Earth would eventually freeze solid. And finally, in 100 trillion years, our solar system will pass close to a supermassive black hole. And even though the Earth would be frozen, anything with mass would still be affected by the black hole's gravity. Our planet would be torn apart, stretched and distorted beyond recognition. Anything not completely destroyed would be slung into outer space and lost forever. And in the end, we're left with nothing but a giant black hole and a bunch of rocks. Okay, seriously, it can't be that bad, right? What if we stopped the chain reaction and only the largest volcanoes erupted at the same time? It wouldn't be pretty, but at least humanity might stand a chance, right? Not exactly. For starters, the largest eruption ever recorded doesn't even come close to being the largest possible. The Toba catastrophe theory proposes that 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano in Indonesia erupted with a force 3,000 times larger than Mount Vesuvius. This event blasted 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice into the air and sent 1,100 cubic kilometers of pyroclastic flows across the surface of the Earth. If this eruption happened today, it would be catastrophic. Pyroclastic flows would incinerate everything in their path. Ash would bury entire cities, and the global climate would be thrown into chaos. Yet somehow, life would still exist, and the human race would continue. But what if all the volcanoes on Earth were like this one? First, the skies would turn yellow as sunlight bounced off billions of tons of ash. Then, within weeks, the entire globe would be covered in a layer of ash and heat waves would ravage every country. After that, the ground beneath our feet would begin to shake as every volcano continued to erupt. Over the next few months, more and more volcanoes would erupt, causing massive earthquakes and reshaping the planet. Then the atmosphere would cool as sulfur dioxide blocked the sun. Rain would fall and wash the toxic ash into our rivers and oceans. And while humanity might survive the initial blasts, they would quickly run out of food. Crops would fail as ash buried farmlands and polluted water supplies. Mass starvation would wipe out most of humanity, but it wouldn't kill everyone. Some would flee to bunkers, but they would eventually run out of food and water. Others would live out their days on cargo ships or mega yachts floating in the endless ocean of ash. Meanwhile, the world outside would slowly begin to recover. Since there would be no humans to pollute the environment, nature would begin to reclaim abandoned cities. Plants would grow back in the fields, and animals would return to their habitats. But after millions of years, the Earth would look very different. Volcanic activity would increase, forming new islands and reshaping continents. Mountains would rise and new valleys would form. Volcanoes would create new geothermal energy sources and warm the planet. It would enter a new ice age and glaciers would form. In fact, it might even be hospitable to life again. So if all the volcanoes on Earth erupted at the same time, humanity would likely go extinct, but life would find a way to continue. But what if all the volcanoes on every planet in the solar system erupted at the same time? It sounds crazy, but it's technically possible. There are volcanoes on Mars, Venus, Jupiter's moon, Io, and Saturn's moon Enceladus. On Mars, Olympus Mons, a shield volcano, towers 22 kilometers above the Martian surface. On Venus, the Mart Mons caldera stretches for 1,000 kilometers across the planet's surface. Io has hundreds of volcanoes due to the constant tidal flexing from Jupiter's gravity. And on Enceladus, a cracked ice shell allows steam to escape and create massive eruptions of ice particles. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Astronomers believe that there are probably many more volcanic bodies in our solar system that we don't know about yet. For example, there could be volcanoes on moons like Europa, Ganymede, Titan, and Triton. And who knows what kind of volcanoes might be out there in the universe. Maybe someday we'll find planets covered in volcanoes, or even stars that erupt like supernovas. But for now, we can be thankful that none of these volcanoes are active at the same time. Otherwise, we might be living in a completely different universe. Thanks for watching this episode. And thank you to our supporters for making it possible. Your support really helps us keep our channel going, and you too can help us by supporting us. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.